Hi, welcome back to another episode of Northern Hockey Shack Sports Talk. To my right, we have Aiden Weiss and Ryder Langthorne. Our special guest today is Ryan Howse, my old head coach. Kind of didn't play me a whole lot, but that's okay. And he's here to answer a few questions about his hockey career. So, Aiden, I understand you have the first question?
Yeah, first question. This one gets asked pretty frequently, but growing up, you grew up in Prince George, and I don't know, I kind of met like a few of the guys when you coached me, but did you have a core group of guys that trained together, worked together, or were you kind of like, you had to kind of go off on your own and do that?
No, we had a good group of our friends who had played together we started in Adams, Pee Wee, Bantam. It kind of just kept going, and then as we got into junior, we kind of grew that friendship so well that we stayed together and we trained together. I was fortunate enough to play Adams for 1 year, and that's when minor hockey had the switch, so I only had 1 year of Adams, and I got to move up with the older guys again to play Pee Wee. And I kind of stuck with that, and Renzo Berra was my head coach for the first couple of years of my rep hockey experience, and playing with RJ Berra for most of that time, and then kind of grew closer to those guys as it went on with RJ and Brandon Manning, Sam Muchella, guys who all went on to play NCAA Pro, things like that. So it was pretty neat, and to have all those guys, and still my friends to this day, my best friends, my closest friends.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, playing as an underager, you played the Canucks as a 14-year-old, correct?
Yes.
So, what was playing in that league as an underager like?
It was different. I wasn't very familiar with the BC Major Midget League because it was fairly new back then, where the Cariboo Cougars weren't yet the Cougars. It was the Canucks, I believe. Yeah. The Flames were in it. They're all named after kind of NHL teams or something similar to that, and playing in the league as a 14-year-old against 15, 16, 17-year-olds was challenging, but a lot of fun. I think my first game I ended up scoring 2 goals, and it was kind of relaxed and eased into place. And the guys, the biggest part with that was the older guys were very, very good to me. That's the biggest thing. Made me feel comfortable, made me feel a part of the team. And still some of those guys to this day I keep in touch with, and we have that relationship still.
For sure. Good leadership's always good.
So, you played Cariboo as a 15-year-old, and then you went straight to Chilliwack, or?
Yeah, I played, so after my Bantam draft, I went and played Cariboo as a 15-year-old. I got to play my 5 games at the time. That was the rule for the Western Hockey League. You get 5 games and as an AP player, and that was it. I got to play against the Cougars for my first game in Prince George. I scored that weekend, which was pretty cool, as a 15-year-old AP. And then actually that year I also spent time with the Spruce Kings. I got to play in the Royal Bank Cup National Championship as a 15-year-old, which was awesome. Great experience. My dad played for them, and my grandma was the billet coordinator, so the hockey roots there run deep. And then after that, moved on to Chilliwack for 4 years. Yeah.
So, as a 16-year-old in the WHL, is it a big jump from Major Midget?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's a lot tougher than you think. Unless you're an elite player, going into that league, the guys just bigger, stronger. Those guys are more. I always tell people they're more professional ready.
Yeah.
Than a BCHL. BCHL, I feel like they need a little more time to develop, and that league is just getting better and better. But when I went to Major Junior, it was a big adjustment for me, and I was pretty good for my age. But as soon as I made that jump, there was guys who were my age who actually were better at 16 than I was. It took me a little bit longer to get used to everything and kind of find my way. And I had a good coach in Jim Hiller, who was the assistant coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs last year.
Good team.
Great, yeah, great coach. He was a very offensive guy, and he taught me well. And Mark Habsch had coached the Boston Bruins, World Juniors, things like that. So I had 2 good coaches that kind of helped guide me and develop me through those 4 years that I was there.
So what did you do to kind of like help adjust, and also being such a young, talented player, were you getting like kind of like attacked out there by some of the older, bigger guys, or what?
I wouldn't say attacked or anything like that. I'd just say the pressure was a little higher. The pressure was a little higher. Being a third overall pick, going in the Western League, things like that. Minor hockey, obviously, other teams would kind of key on me, and the biggest thing with that though, when you're a hockey player, a young hockey player, and if you know you're good, the one thing is you don't need to tell people, you don't need to, have that cockiness. You have to have a good head on your shoulder. You have to be humble. You have to go to work every day to get better, and that's the one thing I realized as a young guy, that okay, I'm pretty good at this game, but I need to be better. There's always someone better out there, and if you want to get better and you want to excel, you have to be humble. You have to take in everything. You have to listen to your coaches, things like that, and to move on and be successful.
So, you played on the U17 Canada Pacific, and then you lost to Ontario in the semi. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. We so when I was 15, my first year, I got to play U17 as an underage in the Canada Winter Games in Whitehorse, which was an amazing experience. Got to play with our Martin Jones was our goalie. Couple of guys who didn't quite make it. Who were good at the time for Team BC, but a lot of guys there didn't really move on. Big names like Jordan Eberle and the Shen and you got Stamkos, and those guys were on Ontario, and playing against them, if you go back and look, it's just, which I did a couple weeks ago. I went back, I was going through my old stuff, and I saw the types of players that I was playing against, and at the time you don't realize, but it's pretty special. I got to play in that as an underage. Stamkos scored the overtime winner to eliminate us from gold medal contention, but the experience itself was amazing. And then the following year, I got to play with everyone who was my age in Team Pacific. We went to Ontario, and again, we lost. Actually, Taylor Hall, Ryan Ellis, Matt Duchesne, Cassie, and those guys were on Team Ontario. They beat us in the semifinal, which, that's a pretty skilled group. I think I was on a line with Evander Kane and Landon Ferraro, who was picked right in front of me in the Western Hockey League draft. But they ended up beating us, and then we lost again in the bronze medal. So I missed 2 bronze medals back-to-back years. We lost to the United States in the bronze medal game, so it was tough, yeah.
What was playing in Whitehorse like? Was it just a shithole, or was it kind of...
Whitehorse. Well, I'll tell you what, when we flew up there, Canada Winter Games, that happens, and I think it's January, February.
Okay.
Oh.
You fly up there, and I got off the plane, and you usually walk through that hallway where, the thing, I don't know what it's called, it attaches to the plane, and all I saw was the stairs pull up, and I thought, oh no. I had to walk off this. My face completely froze. My nostrils, you couldn't even breathe. That's how cold it was. It was awful, but just seeing what it's like up there is completely amazing. Like, I never thought I'd go up there. I got to go there, and I got to go to Alaska when I played professional, and I probably wouldn't go back there in the winter if I had a choice, but being there to play hockey was pretty cool. It was a good experience.
So did you go on any memorable playoff runs with the Bruins?
No.
No?
Unfortunately, we got eliminated in the first round every year I was there. We're an expansion team. I get to spend the whole time there. Obviously, with these other Western Hockey League teams who've been around, they can build. With that one, you kind of get the misfits, and you saw it with Vegas where they said that.
Yeah.
I mean, look what they did, but that's just the difference in the skill level right there. But in Chilliwack, I was the first ever draft pick, which was great. But the years we had there, I mean, the first year we made the playoffs when I was 16, awesome experience. Played the Giants, who were unbelievable at the time. Second year, we were awful. I didn't even come close. My last 2 years, we were right there. We went Game 6, I think, both years, and in the first round, or Game 6, against Tri-Cities, who ended up winning it, or losing to Calgary, in the finals. And I think Spokane, who had Tyler Johnson, guys like that, and it's just, I mean, we didn't really match up too well against those teams, and it was early exits for us.
Oh yeah.
There's a new expansion team coming to Junior A, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, something Bucks.
Cranbrook Bucks.
Cranbrook, yeah.
Yeah, so how is that going to work? Like, how does that for a junior team?
You know what? I'm not, like, for me with the Western Hockey League, I was a part of that expansion, and like I said, it's tough, but they have an expansion draft where players have to protect certain players to keep them, and then you get to choose who you want from each team. I don't know how the BCHL is going to work that. I think it's exciting. I think, I mean, I played in that rink in Cranbrook. It's a nice little building, and especially for Junior A, that's going to be awesome. I know a lot of guys who played in Cranbrook and loved it, loved the people there and everything like that. So I'm excited to see what it's like. I just saw that come out, and I don't know how it's going to be, but I think it's going to be exciting for them. It's a lot of long road trips though.
Yeah. Okay. What was your favorite team to play against in junior?
Oh, my favorite team to play against, probably the Vancouver Giants in the Pacific Coliseum. They don't play there anymore, but when I played Chilliwack, Vancouver, you got an hour road trip. The rivalry was awesome. Every game it was so easy to get up for, and it was awesome because the Chilliwack fans would go to Vancouver, the Vancouver fans would come to Chilliwack,
Awesome.
and it was just amazing. And them and I think Kelowna as well.
Oh, yeah.
I loved playing against Kelowna. They were that rink. You go into that rink, and the atmosphere in there is unbelievable. The show they put on before the game, it just gets you so excited. And same with the Giants. The Giants is, but I gotta admit that's one team that I disliked very much when I played, obviously, and now being alumni, I guess my team's not there anymore. They moved to Victoria,
Yeah.
but I always cheer for them, and there's a couple guys who went through that system there and who were with me cheered them on, and yeah, Vancouver is definitely number one.
So you went to the AHL after, like, where were you drafted, and tell us a little bit about the jump from the dub to the AHL.
So I was drafted 74th overall, so in the third round to Calgary. And then as a 20-year-old, you're allowed to make that jump to professional hockey, or you can stay in the Western League. Calgary chose to move me into the American Hockey League in the farm system, and I actually got to play preseason games with them, things like that, which is really enjoyable. Something I'll never forget, and something that can never be taken away from me, right?
Yeah.
So it was tough. It's a big adjustment, and we talk about jumping from major midget to the Western Hockey League or BCHL is hard.
Yeah.
You hear guys say it all the time. That jump is incredibly hard. And the elite players end up making the NHL within a year. The players that struggle a little bit, which was myself, I struggled a little bit to make that adjustment. You stay there a little longer. And actually, my second year, we had the NHL lockout that year.
Yeah.
And that made things a little tougher because then you have all the first round draft picks, you have all this very high end talent come down. So that bumped me down, and I was in the East Coast Hockey League in Utah, Salt Lake City for the first half of the season till the lockout was over, and then I got to come back. But it's definitely a big adjustment.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about the ECHL. Was it like comparison to what you were playing in the year previous? Was it kind of like easier or?
You know what? For me, it was a little easier. It was nice because it's not it's still scrambly, and the American Hockey League is scrambly as well because you got a lot of guys who are trying to prove themselves, trying to make a difference to get to the NHL. You're so close, you're right there. And then the East Coast Hockey League, you got some guys who are kind of at the tail end. They're just playing to play.
Yeah.
But you got some guys who are playing because they still want to go and they still want to make the American Hockey League. They still want to get that chance in the NHL. It was fun there, and I think I developed more there than I did in the American Hockey League at the time because, I don't know if you guys know this, in the East Coast Hockey League, you're only allowed to play 3 forward lines. You're not allowed to play 4.
I've heard of that.
And then you play 6 defensemen, but there was games where if you have multiple fights or something like that and guys get kicked out, well, now you're down to 2 lines. The one game I played, I ended up playing defense for a whole game because we had 2 line brawls right at the start, and that's kind of the way the league is, a little more chippier and things like that. But definitely fun. I had a great experience living in the United States. Salt Lake City's is a very clean, very nice city, and I enjoyed it. And the rink we played in was actually the O2 Olympics, Salt Lake City, and our dressing room's amazing, hot tub, sauna, everything you can imagine. It was Team USA's home dressing room, so it was really cool. Yeah.
Big caliber.
Yeah.
So playing in the AHL, is there anybody that stuck out in your mind? Or playing any preseason games? Anyone that you really enjoyed hanging out with, playing hockey with?
Actually, one of my better buddies, who we just talked recently, he just had his first child, was Sven Barchi. Me and him were pretty close in the AHL. We actually became close by being injured at the same time, which is never good, but we made the most of it, and we lived together for a little bit there, a room together, and we had a heck of a time. And another guy is Michael Furlan. We both kind of hit it off. He was drafted the year after me. We're both Aboriginal, so we had that connection there.
Yeah.
We both played in the Western Hockey League, and we trained in Calgary in the summers together. So I spent a lot of time with him. I haven't stayed in too much contact with him over the past few years. He's been a busy guy, obviously a lot busier than me. So those are 2 guys that kind of stick out, and playing in the American Hockey League when I got to play against certain guys like Kadri, Gardner on Toronto were there. I played against Gallagher obviously with the Giants, and then in the American Hockey League, like there's some pretty skilled guys I got to play against, which made it enjoyable.
Yeah. So hopping into coaching, how did you get started with that?
So when I came back to Prince George after I was done playing, the one year I decided I'd kind of get into it and see what it was like, and I really enjoyed my first year. It was I coached a Pee-wee team. It was my little brother's team, who's not much of a hockey player. He's done now. He's baseball. Yeah, he's all baseball now. But got to coach him, and I really enjoyed it. So the next year I took on the Bantams with Mr. Weiss, and that was another fun year. I had a great year coaching them, and then after that decided to continue on, and with the midgets had Brev, Marcus, things like that, which that year is probably the best year of hockey I've ever had in my life, player or coach. That's kind of how amazing that year was, and special to me. Yeah, exactly, and something I'll never forget, and that just drove me more and more to want to coach and see how happy the guys were and see how much they enjoyed it and how much fun we had that year. Made me want to come back, and it kind of gave me the passion for hockey again, and now I'm just kind of running with it and seeing where it's going to take me.
Did you have any championships previous to that?
No, that would have been my first one. That player and coach, that was my first provincial championship. I never had played in a provincial final or anything. I mean, Royal Bank Cup national championship, we lost in the final that year in Prince George. That was as close as I've ever come, but that year, I mean, you were a part of it, Brev, and
It's pretty crazy. There was a fight in the corner.
Devin Cronstad?
Between the parents and like the last
That's the intensity.
30 seconds of the game.
Yeah, there was, and I think that's a prime example. You want to talk about misfits. That team that year.
We weren't the best team, but we were like the best for each other.
Exactly, that shows it right there. Like, we had players who were thinking of quitting and weren't thinking of playing again, and they decided they're going to play this year, and they came together as probably the tightest group I've ever had, and would do anything for each other. Never got in arguments, never complained, went to work, had fun, and look what happens. You don't lose a single tournament all year, and you get memories for a lifetime, right?
Like we went like 62, 3, and 2 or something.
Yeah, it was.
Do you remember the Christmas Cup championship? You were goaltender?
I do. I had a brief stint as a goalie. Yep. It's a lot easier being a goalie than it is a player. I don't have to move as much.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
No, it was fun. I mean, that's one thing, coaching in the PGSS hockey class too. Those guys are doing great things with RJ, Justin Fillion. Renzo's just he's amazing, and he makes it fun every time, and he makes you a better player and a better person. So I couldn't say enough good things about that program, and being a part of it that year. Christmas Cup champs was a lot of fun. I think I was MVP too.
Yeah,
That would have been your second championship.
Yeah, so that's right. I have 2 championships.
Yeah. That program's definitely a fun one and build your character a lot.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hot minute.
Oh yeah. So last 5 questions. You have 3 seconds to answer them,
All right.
and I'm just gonna shoot them off. And what first thing that comes to your mind?
He doesn't even know what they are.
Okay.
Okay. So what's your favorite hobby?
Hobby. Sitting on my couch.
That was, you gotta be a
That's
little quicker. Than
3 to
that.
5 seconds.
No, that was like 15 seconds. Okay. What's your favorite song? Okay, we're skipping that one. What's your favorite food?
Oh, pizza.
Okay. What's your favorite NHL team?
Pittsburgh Penguins.
Okay, and then
Easy over there.
what's your favorite thing to do on a snowy Sunday?
Nothing. Stay inside.
Perfect. Watch football. Okay. Thank you. That wraps up everything on the Northern Hockey Shack. We'd like to thank Ryan Howse for being on with us today, and from all of us here to you, stay squarely, PG.